Hello everyone, how are you? Today Arianna, Andrea and myself we're going to talk about legends and myths about Scotland. And to start with, we're going to go through a little bit of introduction about Scotland, which is the northerly part of United Kingdom, and it occupies 1/3 of the total island, so it's quite big. The name comes from the Latin word Scotia, which means land of Scots, which were Celtic people who settled, Celtic Irish people, in fact, who settled on the west coast of the Great Britain during the 5th century. The capital of Scotland is Edinburgh, and it has 3 official languages, which are English, Scottish, and Scottish Gaelic. Alright, one of the issues we want to talk about is the Scottish symbolism, and the thistle is one of the symbols of Scotland, which is a wheat plant that has always bloomed across Scottish landscapes, but it wasn't until the 13th century that it then became one of the symbols of the country. And there's a story to explain that, and it goes like this. It was a very, very long time ago that the Scottish were destroyed by the Vikings, and the Scottish men were resting in a camp, in fact sleeping, and the Vikings decided to reach them in order to fight them. As they were sleeping, they thought they could take advantage of that, so they decided to go there, and in order to make as less noise as possible, they took their shoes off, and one of the men stepped into a patch of thistles. So as you can imagine, he was crying out of pain that he woke the Scottish men up. So they noticed that the Vikings were there, so they managed to woke up very quickly, immediately in fact, and they could fight them back, and they finally won the battle. So in other words, thanks to the plan, they managed to win, because if not, they wouldn't have heard anything, and so they would keep sleeping. So thanks to the thistle, they heard the cries, and they woke up, and they fight them back, so they won. And from that day, the thistle became one of the Scottish national symbols, and its first use was during the reign of Alexander III, in which James decided to use the thistle to make silver coins. Alright, another of the symbols of Scotland is the fairy flag of the Castle of Dunvegan, and there are 2 stories that explain it as a symbol, and one of them says that it came from the Crusaders from the eastern part of Scotland, and the other one says, the other one is actually the story I'm going to explain you right now, which is about the 4th chief of a clan who met a princess, and they immediately fell in love. The princess asked him to marry her, but he rejected because he said he was a human and he would end up dying. So finally they get an agreement, and it was like the princess could stay with him during 1 year and 1 day, and then she'll have to leave. And so they did so. But during this period of time, they had a child, a boy, and before leaving, the princess made her husband promise that he will never leave him alone, or he will never let him cry. And he promised that, but after he left, he was so depressed that her friends prepared a party for him to cheer him up, and he left the baby with the nurse. But the nurse heard the music, and she decided to join the party. So the child was left alone, and he was crying. The fairy princess heard the cries, and she came back. He wrapped the baby with a shawl and started singing to him until he fell asleep, and she put them back into the bed. When years later, the child explained what happened to his father, and that's why the shawl became the fairy flag. And they could use it when they were find themselves in danger or they need help, some kind of help. They just need to wave the flag 3 times, and then the fairy princess will bring them the help of the aid they needed. And the first time they used it was when they were attacked by the McDonald's. The McDonald's. So they waved the flag 3 times, and the fairy princess bring them the help they needed.
So I'm going to talk about the legends related to the Jacobites. Um, the Jacobites were a group of mostly Scottish people in the late 17th and 18th century who supported the restoration of the Catholic King James VII of Scotland and II of England and his descendants. He was forced into exile by the British Parliament after the Glorious Revolution of 1688. And to simplify things, we could say it's a Catholic versus Protestant or Scots versus England movement, which is probably why it meant a lot for the people at the time. To understand the story, we need to know about Charles Edward Stuart, or known also in popular memory as the Bonnie Prince Charles. He was the last Jacobite prince to lead an uprising to claim the British throne. And the following story is about his flower. Um, this little pink flower named convolvulus flower, it is also known as a prince flower because the story says that the Bonnie Prince, on his way to raise the standard at the Jacobite standard in 1745, he had to stop in the island of Eriskay because of the rough weather. And as the prince stepped the shore, he said that he reached into his pocket and he pulled a handful of flower seeds that he spread all over the coast shore. So these rare flowers grew, and they have come to be known as the prince flowers for this reason. Also, it is been observed that when anyone tries to move the plants from the island to another location, they never flourish. The next story has relation with the Battle of Culloden. That was the last Jacobite battle that was held in 1746. And we also need to know the meaning of the redcoats. The redcoats was the popular name given to the English army because of the way they were dressed. So this story happened only a few months after the Battle of Culloden, when a detachment of the redcoats was passing through the area of Appin, and they found a young woman milking her cow, and they attacked her. The woman fought off, and in the last desperate attempt to escape, she picked up a stone and hit the surgeon dead. The the hatred for the government troops in this part of Scotland was such that the local men didn't want the body of the soldiers to contaminate the churchyard. So as soon the detachment had gone, they sold into the churchyard and dug up his body. They carried him down the sea, but they were stopped by the brother of the young woman that was attacked. He pulled out a knife and tore the skin from the arm of the surgeon. And then the milksmaid's brother dried and cured the skin and used it to make a sheath for his dirk. So the story became the story of the Appin dirk, and many researchers had tried to find the dirk without luck yet.
Hi, my name is Ana Hernandez, and now I'm going to explain the most supernatural Scottish part of this presentation. First of all, I would like to talk, about Bonnie Bridge. As you already know, Scotland has a fantastic reputation as a tourist destination. The dark rolling mountains, the crystal clear lochs, and also the misty glens. Every year, thousands of visitors arrive to Scotland from America, from Europe, from Asia, but also from out of space. Scotland is flying high when it comes to spooky UFO sightings. With more than 300 sightings per year, Bonnie Bridge has become the official UFO capital of Scotland. Forming part of the Falkirk Triangle, the area stretches from Stirling, a town, to a neighbourhood on the outskirts of Edinburgh. The first sighting in Bonnie Bridge was in 1992. A local business, called James Walker, was driving from Falkirk to Bonnybridge when he was suddenly stopped by a sparkling star-shaped object that just blocked his path. Walker sat in his car and watched the object until it flew away at an incredible speed. There's another case. There was another case, in October 1994, about three cleaners on their way to work that said that they saw five UFOs. UFOs. When they got to work, they explained to their manager what had happened, and to his surprise, a number of employees then came forward to confirm that they had seen flashing lights too. But the most strange case or experience it was in 1979 when a forester declared that he had seen a large spherical object with a gray metallic finish in front of him in a plantation. He attempted to escape, but the spheres cut his trousers, and he was unable to walk during 20 minutes. He had to crawl nearly 100 yards to his pickup truck, and after reporting the incident, the area was investigated and several marks in the ground were detected in the clearing, which could not be explained. Whether they are true or not, there's no doubt that Bonnie Bridge is one of the most mysterious and strange towns that we could ever know in Scotland. But now I would like to talk also about the Bee Knight. The Bee Knight is a female spirit in Scottish folklore regarded as an omen of death and also a messenger from the other world. The words Bee Knight um, are like a translation from the Scottish Gaelic to washer woman. This comes from the fact that the Bee Knight is a type of night washerwoman that haunts desolate streams and also washes clothing of those about to die. This spooky spirit is said to be the result of a woman who once was living and died in a childbirth. Due to her untimely death, she is doomed to do this work until her life will have naturally ended. And the story just focus on that on the you may ask the Bee Knight three questions. These are only answered, however, if you answer three questions first. If you answer all these three questions, you may gain a wish from her. If you pass by her politely, she will also tell you the names of the ones that are going to die. And that's it. This is the Bee Knight, and this is Bonnie Bridge.
Okay, now I'm gonna talk to you about the Scottish monsters. I'm sure that you all know about the most famous one, which is the monster of Loch Ness. First of all, I would like to introduce you to the monster. Her name is Nessie, and I see her because she is supposed to be a female, and she looks like a dinosaur, and she has a long neck and a couple of humps, and she lives in the Loch Ness, as her name indicates. And this loch is about 24 miles long and 1 mile wide, and has a deepness of about 700 miles. And the first time that she appeared in history was in 565 AD, when she appeared in St. Columba's biography. The story says that she attacked one swimmer one time, and then St. Columbus was visiting a settlement next to the Loch Ness, and the villagers told him that one of them was attacked by a monster from the lake, and then St. Columbus decided to send one of his monks to the lake to get some boat that was in the other side of the lake. And then when the monk decided to go in and start swimming, the monster reappeared, and was in the moment when St. Columbus did the cross with his fingers and said to the beast, in this case Nessie, that she should step back and please, well, not please probably, but that she shouldn't bother anymore the villagers from that settlement. And that's the beginning of Nessie's story. But the truth is that we have heard about Nessie in these past several years, so the story has continued somehow. Actually, in 1933, a local couple was driving their car, and then in front of them there was a monster that passed by, and right after entered to the lake. So from that moment on, the myth of the monster of Loch Ness was reborn. So was that in the same year, Daily Mail sent a monster hunter named Marmaduke Wetherell to locate it, and he found some footprints that were supposed to be from Nessie, but at the end they were just hippopotamus footprints that someone did intentionally, so they were fake, as I said. And then 1 year later, in 1934, Dr. Wilson, who was a physician, took a photo that seemed to show a plesiosaur. The thing is that it was not longer a monster, a random monster, it was a plesiosaur, which was a kind of dinosaur that was living, that used to live in the water, and was extincted about 65 million years ago. Later on 1975, some Americans went to the Loch Ness and took some photographies, and in those pictures there was not only seen a plesiosaur, but a whole family of plesiosaurs. And they sent that pictures to the House of Commons, and then the people that worked in the parliament decided to have a meeting, and they decided to give the name to Nessie, a Latin name, which is weird because no one ever saw those pictures. I mean, only the people that had access to it, but they were never being published. They had never been published. So it's weird why the government is deciding to give to Nessie a Latin name if she is supposed to be fake. She is not supposed to exist. And then in 1994, Wilson's photo, Wilson was the physician that I told you, turned out to be fake, and actually the photo was from a submarine that had a wooden stick that was acting as the neck and the head, so someone tricked him. And they say that it was Wetherell because he wanted to seek revenge, but that's something that people say. We don't actually know it for sure. And then from that moment on, so from a little bit earlier than Wilson's fake photo, so in 1987 till 2003, there has been a lot of sonar explorations and plenty of different trackings to see whether there was a monster there or not. And we must say that they all concluded that there was not a monster. But in 2009, a person said that through Google Earth satellite he saw the monster nest. The thing is that depending on the person, there is thinking about the story. They could think that monster exists, or they could think that the monster does not exist. It depends on if you want to focus on reality or on imagination. But what its true story is that the monster of Loch Ness, this myth, has given to Scotland's economy a lot of money, about 80 million dollars per year. So maybe it's not true, or maybe it is, but the thing is, like, it is part of Scotland's history, and it's a real good thing to Scotland's economy.